For me, the greatest ROI that I've had in any business interaction, in any business investment that I've made, it's the relationships that I've grown over the last 14, 15, 16, 20 years that are still here today. They're going to carry through any business I start, through any trials and tribulations that I have. It's the relationships that create that true connection and just give me joy, y'all. But the thing that I want to cast some vision on is how do we intentionally build a group of people who you can build relationship for decades, not weeks, not years, not months, for decades.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Carrot Cast. Now, the Carrot Cast, we're usually diving in doing interviews with amazing real estate investors, amazing real estate agents. Now, in these episodes, every Thursday, they're the Trevor Truck Talks, where you get to hear behind the scenes of the mindset shifts I'm going through as a CEO of one of the fastest growing companies in America, and the mindset shifts you can take to run your business and win back your freedom as well. Let's dive into this episode.
Y'all, I'm driving in a white Jeep, big old fat tires on Highway 30A in the Florida Panhandle right now. And I'm going to talk about the highest return on investment activity that I've done as an entrepreneur over the last 20 years. Okay. And it's probably not what you're thinking. But if you invest in what I'm going to be talking about in this, it's going to be the highest ROI in finances. It's going to be the highest ROI in fulfillment, which is most important. And it's frankly going to be the highest ROI of just what gives you the joy as an entrepreneur, I think. At least it has for me. So why the heck am I in the Florida Panhandle? Well, I'm on Highway 30A right now, and I just spent the last 4 or 5 days or so at Rosemary Beach. And I was there for a mastermind that I've been holding for going on 12 years now. And back in 2010, my former business partner, who was my business partner at that time, we decided to get together, and he lived in Charleston, South Carolina. I live in Oregon. So we live on completely opposite sides of the country. We said, well, shoot, it'd be awesome to get together at least once a year. So why don't we get other people together at the same time? And so at that time, we had just started inviting some people that we aligned with. We had aligned values. We liked each other. And at that time, we were all kind of on similar paths in the journey. And I think so many of us as entrepreneurs, we see the people that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 steps ahead of us. And those are the people that we want to get around, which is totally fine. That's totally great. I'm going to talk about kind of those 3 levels of mentors or mentorship and where they come in. But this past 4 days just so reminded me. And I've just had so much peace and so much joy this past several days. Just really remembering and thinking about all of these, the value, the benefit, the joy, the just amazingness that's come out of these relationships since we started this 12 years ago. Now, there were literally people in the room today that were at the very first one 12 years ago, and they've been here for tons of them since then. We do it once a year, and we now bring our wives in, our spouses in, and we just have an amazing time together. And like I said, there were people that were at the very first one. The very first one was at a Starbucks in Charleston, South Carolina, or I guess Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And there was only 5 of us. It just started with a handful of us. And we were all at similar spots at that time in business. And over the years, we've seen people start businesses fail. We've seen marriages happen and been to bunches of weddings in this group of people that we've collected over the years. We've seen babies born, families, businesses sold, businesses bought, and all along the way, every trial and tribulation and win and success that goes with that. And as I think about, this week that just wrapped up and all the people who have been in this group that we've collected for 3, 4, 5, 7, 10, 12 years, depending on them, and all the people that it was their first time, there was 2 first timers, one first timer to the group. David Ledko, CEO of Deal Machine, good friend of mine now. And this is the lesson I want to impart on you that I wish I would have been a little bit more intentional on 12 years ago. But I'm so grateful that things worked out the way that they did by accident. Okay. So in our early days as entrepreneurs, or even not early days, we're often taught networking, right? We're taught to go out there and network and get to know people, which is great. That's a good thing to do. But networking by itself tends to be a very short-term transactional thing. It's we're going to go out there, meet some people. And when you talk and think about networking, networking tends to be something that I get for me, right? It's like I want to go out there and find people who can give me value because I have some voids or some opportunities. And I think that I could get some value from other people. That's networking. That's not a bad thing to do. Go out there and meet people, network, build those relationships. But the thing that I want to cast some vision on is how do we intentionally build a group of people who you can build relationship for decades, not weeks, not years, not months, for decades. And that's the way I look at networking now. That's the way I look at relationships now, is the people that I want around me the most and people I really kind of bring into that fold and bring into this group or bring into other groups as I go, okay, is this someone I can see living life with for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years? At this group, there was a couple of us that were talking about golf, and it's a passion of mine. I love golf. I don't golf a lot, but I golf at Bandon Dunes, which is about an hour and 15 minutes from my house. So if any of you are hardcore golfers, you guys know what I'm talking about. Bandon Dunes is one of the most epic places in the world to golf. It's got 4 of the top, I think, 20 golf courses in America in that one spot, an hour and 15 minutes from my house. And it's just epic. And so there's a couple other amazing, just people who love golf at the mastermind. And so this is something I've been thinking about a lot more the last 3, 4, 5 years is amazing. How do I do things I love to do where it builds tradition and it builds relationship and an excuse and a reason for us to get together every year, not this one-time event. Like I want to do things that are recurring now. I want to do things that are recurring every single year on a continual basis and stop doing like the one-off stuff. I made that decision many, many years ago. Because when you do something recurring, like an annual golf trip, and you lock it down, it just happens, then you can really invest into long-term relationship. You can make it something people look forward to every single year. And if you can bake in some business relationships in the process, then even better, right? Even better. So I committed coming out of this to create an annual Bandon Dunes golf trip with around 8 of us, 2 foursomes. And when I was talking to Joe McCall about it, he said, okay, are you going to do it? I'm like, 100% I'm going to do it. And I said, Joe, but here's the caveat. This isn't a one-time trip. This is a trip that I want to have us look back in 20 years that we've done every year for 20 years. And we've just built so much joy, so much relationship in the process. And the reason I'm bringing this up, guys, on a business podcast is because so often we end up building businesses and building income, and we get to the other side of that. And I've talked about this so many times in the podcast, but we get to the other side of that. And we think the angels are going to, sing, the clouds are going to part when we hit this income level, and that life is going to be different. And it's really not. So then you buy the fancy car, you buy the Ferrari. Guys, if you love fancy cars, amazing, get the freaking fancy car. Like if you love the craft of the car, get the car. But don't get the car because you think getting the car is going to make you happy. Okay, get the car because you love the craft of the car, and that's what you want to invest in. You love it. Okay? And so the reason I'm saying this is right now, what I love to invest in, I've been doing this for years, is people. I want to invest in a relationship. I want to invest in get to knowing people better. I don't buy fancy stuff because I don't really care about fancy stuff. What I do is I pay for trips and I pay for things for people. And I go on golf trips and I go on masterminds and I find ways to get people together. It's something I've been doing pretty much my whole entrepreneurial life, is finding ways to get people together. It started in this industry back in 2008, and I got the industry together of real estate investors, promoters. It became the biggest networking group in the real estate investor, promoter, quote unquote guru space in the industry. We connected people. I did the same thing in Roseburg, Oregon, where I live. I didn't know any people, so I started an entrepreneur group and just got people together. Once a month, we would get together and have some drinks and share entrepreneurship stuff. And sometimes we would have a speaker. I got people together, and amazing joy came out of that. Amazing relationships that still today, 12 years later, after I started that group, are still amazing relationships. Okay, that's where I get my joy. It's from relationships. And I did an episode of the Carrot Cast not too long ago where I talked about this purpose that I've been really hashing around. And I wouldn't say it's like my life's purpose, but I think it's more of an aim than a purpose. And the aim is to create and connect. And that's what I've learned over the last 15, 20 years as an entrepreneur, is where I have most joy, where I have most momentum, and where I have the most fun, no matter how much money I'm making, is I ask the question, am I creating things? Am I creating value? Am I in creation mode? If I'm not in creation mode and I'm in consumption mode, then I'm not happy. I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel like I'm adding value to the world, and I'm not happy. But then the next part of the equation is connecting. If I'm just creating and not connecting with people at a deep level, same thing. I don't find the deepest level of joy. And so when I'm creating and connecting, that's like the secret sauce, y'all. And that's probably going to be applicable to so many of us on this podcast is, are you creating and are you connecting? And so in this episode, I'm talking about the connecting part. And so a couple challenges for you before we wrap this. And hopefully you're able to hear this well with all the banging and the humming of these big ass tires in this Jeep. Is I had so many opportunities this last 4 days to deeply connect with friends. I'll give you an example. In 2008, I went to the first ever event that I'd ever been to. I actually won tickets to a week-long event. It was a $9,000 event for the week. It was a marketing event back in 2008. And I won tickets to it, and it changed my life. I mean, some of the people that I met at that event and the things that I learned have literally became business partners. I became lifelong friends, and I've been referring back to some of the information I learned at that event literally 14 years later. And one of the people I met at the event is a guy named Chris Person. Now, Chris Person and I really hit it off at that event, and we stayed in contact. We would share, we would hop on calls and share. We would, mastermind together, and we ended up actually going into business together. So one of the businesses didn't work out, and the other one did. And it was kind of an up and down journey for about 7 years. But now the business is popping. There's actually two of them that I'm an owner in. They're both software companies. They're both well into the 7 figures, soon to be 8 figures. One's called salesmessage.com, which is amazing. And the other one's called callloop.com, which is amazing. And so Chris is here at the mastermind, and we had a chance to hang out insanely deeply a couple times. We sat on the beach today for about 3 or 4 hours. I was underneath an umbrella, and I'm all sunburnt. I don't know how, but it's my Oregon boy, fair skin that gets sunburnt underneath an umbrella. But we talked for 3 or 4 hours about life, about faith, about family, about connection. And one of the things that popped up in that talk was just so special is a conversation that came up during our mastermind this week of the responsibility that we have as humans to not go out there and just create for ourselves, and not go out there with selfish intent, motives and intents to create so we can get. It's like our responsibility as humans, especially us as influencers and entrepreneurs, is how do we deeply connect and use our businesses to create and help God's children thrive even more, right? Like, how do we use our skill sets, our God-given skill sets, to help help God's children to thrive even more, to help people? And I remember a moment when Chris and I were in Atlanta a number of years ago. We were walking out of a hotel, and there was a gal sitting up at like the bellhop station. She was probably in her mid to early 20s, and she was pretty. She wasn't like supermodel pretty, but she was a pretty girl. And Chris could just tell that she was in a job, in a role that probably got overlooked a lot. She was in a job and in a role that was very easy to kind of use that person as an object to get what you need from that person, that role. You can think waiters, waitresses, bellhops, any of those roles, gas station attendant in Oregon, you can't pump your own gas. And you think about those jobs and those roles, and you go, man, how often am I using someone, a human being, as an object to get what I need in that transactional instance? We all do it, right? And so we walked out of there, and we were getting whatever we were getting. I can't remember, maybe getting a car is before we were doing Ubers and stuff. And he looked her in the eyes, and it wasn't creepy, it wasn't weird. And he was just genuine in the fact that he's like, I want to appreciate things that are beautiful in this world. And I knew that she'd probably appreciate me just commenting on it. And he just said, hey, I just want to let you know you have a really, really pretty face, and you're valued. And she just lit up, man. I mean, she'd probably just not really had any real conversations with other clients in a long time. And Chris is happily married. He was not trying to pick up on her. That was not the vibe that was coming across. But he was just truly appreciating her. JP Moses, a good friend of mine, he's in my mastermind as well. He was the first person I ever made any money online with back in 2008. Guys, This guy goes way back. We go back 14 years. He's the first person I ever actually talked to in this industry and made money with. Okay. And he's a joy. I love this guy. And he almost died. He doesn't remember the day, but he was driving in Florida and he crossed the median. He said, I don't know if I fell asleep. None of the witnesses knew. Was there a medical event? No one knew. There wasn't any medical evidence that showed that there was, but no one knew. It was a mystery. And he crossed the center line and hit someone going 65 miles an hour. And he was in a coma for 6 weeks. And he almost killed the other person. The other person came through as well. And this was just a life-altering experience for him. And that's not an easy thing, right? That's not an easy thing at all. And so out of that, he was really saved. I mean, he was completely saved in an instance where they thought he was going downhill and not going to make it. And he came out of that saying, the rest of my life, I'm going to devote to caring for people, to letting people know that they're valued. And that was the message he was given. And I was at a restaurant with him, and there was a waitress, and she was having a hard time. There was people that were giving her a hard time at another table. They were being jerks. Was the food slow? Heck yeah, it was. But they were being massive jerks. And JP stopped her as she was taking our order, and he just said, hey, he kind of touched her arm a little bit, just lightly to make her pause. And he said, hey, I just want to let you know how amazing of a job that you're doing and how much valued you are. And I want to let you know that you're appreciated and the work that you're doing is amazing for us. And we notice it. And in that moment, she just sighed and her shoulders dropped and she was relieved because she was having an extremely hard night. And we got to talking with her, and there was other personal things going on at home in this work situation with the kitchen was backed up, and she was taking the brunt of it from these patrons across the way who were just impatient, using her as an object, looking at this as a transactional short-term thing. She just recognized and realized, oh my gosh, like human connection, and people truly do care. So the reason I'm bringing this up along with the mastermind and creating relationships for the long term is, for me, the greatest ROI that I've had in any business interaction, in any business investment that I've made, is not a single marketing channel. It's not, a business that I started. It's the relationships that I've grown over the last 14, 15, 16, 20 years that are still here today. It's the relationships that are going to carry through any business I start, through any trials and tribulations that I have. It's the relationships that create that true connection and just give me joy, y'all. Like it gives me so much more joy than when I hit my first $1 million month. Okay. We have many $1 million months. Okay. Got my text message from my VP of ops today. Hey, another 7-figure month. Amazing. That's awesome. I'm so grateful. Right. But guys, I don't get joy from that. It's satisfying knowing that we executed some cool things. We're adding so much value to the world. That's satisfying, but that doesn't give me joy. The joy comes from the relationships. The joy comes from the people that I'm impacting, that I'm a part of, that we're doing life together with. So I want to give you that challenge. I want to have you look at your life, your next week, your next day, your next month, your next year, whatever it is. I want y'all to look at, how can I gather a group of people who are in a similar situation as me, similar spot in business and life potentially, that I can see myself doing life with, no matter where you live. Most of these people live completely across the country. Not one of these people lives in my town, okay? I flew across the country to meet with them. Let me gather some people, starting with 2 people, and then 4, and then 6, and then 12 years later, we have about 20 people. We're not all able to meet every single time. And we cap it at 15. We had 17 today. People that you can picture yourself going, we're going to grow together. We don't all have it all figured out, but you know some things I don't know, and I know some things you don't know. We're going to learn together, and we're going to grow life together. You can do this locally. You can do this nationally like I'm doing. You should probably do both. Okay, find some people that you can connect with once a year, once every other year, depending on your budget, that maybe live around the country, that have similar mindsets as you, that you can grow together with. You met them at an event or whatever it is. That's one of the biggest ways you can do is find people that you meet at events that have similar passions and drives. I would suggest you finding a group or creating groups locally that you can meet with more often, that you can live life together, that you can grow together with. For me, it's through our church. For me, it's through my entrepreneur connections, people I'm doing life with. And I can tell you, y'all, in the highest highs and the lowest lows, it's the people that are the ones who give the joy, who raise you up when you're low, who make sure that your ego doesn't get too high when you're high. And it's the people that are the joy. Connecting with people is where it's at, y'all. So start making relationships for the decade. And I can guarantee you, it's going to be the biggest ROI you possibly can make in your business and in your life, y'all. Invest in people. All right. Guys, I'm going to be dropping this Jeep off, so I got to shut this down. But hopefully you guys had an amazing week. And I want to meet you. I want to meet you someday. So we are actually doing an event. We're actually doing an event with Mike Hambright from Investor Fuel, one of the most amazing masterminds for real estate investors and high-level hybrid agents. And guys, we're doing an event in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be at the end of August, I believe. It's the end of August. And it's called $1 Million Meetings. Go to milliondollarmeeting.co, milliondollarmeeting.co. When you fill it out or when you sign up or whatever, mention that you heard about it from Carrot, okay? Because we want to make sure to track that, and there's going to be a whole contingent of Carrot customers there, guys. So this event, he's done it before, but we want to make sure that it's the biggest, baddest, best event ever. So the Carrot team, a bunch of the Carrot team is going to be there. I'm going to be there. And we're gonna control an entire half a day of the curriculum with amazing Carrot customers that are absolutely crushing it. And we're gonna help you guys get through your roadblocks, get through anything blocking you, and absolutely crush business and life. And so it's a 2-day event. Go to milliondollarmeeting.co. Mention that you heard about it from me on this podcast. I probably should have a fancy link that tracks things, but I don't this time. So just mention it when you sign up so they know. And then you'll get put in that Carrot bucket. And we're going to do some crazy, crazy cool things, y'all, that are for the Carrot team or for the Carrot community, Carrot family. Okay, so milliondollarmeeting.co. I hope to meet you. I hope to build an amazing relationship with you. I built amazing relationships with customers. You know, Keith Santon, who started off coming to a Carrot camp, and he's coming to his 5th one soon. And just absolutely love that guy. We're good friends. And so many other people, Bo Hollis and so many others. Come to a Carrot camp, carrotcamp.com. David Ledko, CEO of Deal Machine, is going to come to one of the next ones in May. So there might be a few spots by the time this comes out, maybe not. We sold out the first Carrot camp in May in 24 hours. And the second one, we haven't even sent an email for it yet. And there's only 5 spots as of the time I'm saying this. And guys, I want you to connect with us. I want to connect with you. And I want to be able to help change your business, change your life. And I want you to connect with others at these events to where you change your life in the process too. All right, guys, milliondollarmeeting.co, carrotcamp.com. Let's light up the world together, guys. Build better connections. Talk soon.